you watch very closely, you might be able to see that with this type of nozzle, it's the one that has the lowest flow, we get a mist, and when there is some wind, that mist is then flowing away. And if we increase the flow, the water droplets are bigger, and we have a few of those to experiment and learn, and that way the sector is then irrigated where we are measuring. Right now this goes all over the place, which is okay because there is a sensor for each sector, but I think that's interesting for people who would like to use the same type of Senegal wobbler that we are using here. So this is the number 6 nozzle, and this gives you this very fine mist that makes also the adjacent areas wet. This here is a very positive sign. This is what the horses leave. So this is our paddock A18. They come here and graze and trample, and that way now something like the Bermuda grass can grow, or whatever else is there and is a hot loving or heat loving plant. So this is a very positive side. Of course they nibble on all this other stuff that is now brown, but it certainly is a way forward. So I would love to have more horses or donkeys or something like that, and they are more docile, they are easier to manage, they don't have any issue with those fences, they respect them. So this fence, you can see, I can touch it, this fence is off, and they won't challenge it because they understand the meaning of that. There is a door and they will use that door. So it's a lot easier than cows, because cows, they go forward and the fence is just a shrub and they will simply plow through it if they want to. So I very much like this side, and we let them roam here in this area. But now that we got some rain, it's wet, it wasn't a heavy rain, but it is wet. So there, when we seed it, things will now germinate, and tomorrow finally the irrigation for that piece will be installed. The guys have already prepared something. Today was the day of shearing the sheep. Unfortunately I wasn't here, so the two of them did this alone and nobody was filming. So I can only tell you and show you the naked sheep. But the thing is, tomorrow this is now urgent because we got a little bit of rain. There were a few showers, smaller ones, and therefore it is all wet. And even right now it is sprinkling a little bit from this dark cloud up there. But you can see there is the blue sky. So this is just a few towers that here and there let go of a little bit of water. So what I wanted to say is, up there I will now lower the remnants of the fence and I will build a plus-minus fence so that the horses will definitely stay out of this area, where soon Sunhep and friends will stand tall. And as I spoke about the Bermuda grass, so here we have it. And there. So now that there's no constant pressure and there are only 3 horses roaming this area, this can grow. And you can see this is pretty tall. So compared to my hand, so the stuff is there. You just have to let it grow. And it is raining a little bit, it is dribbling. It's that cloud overhead. So right now, I guess I have to stop because I'm getting wet. This cloud up there is definitely putting some water out, which is good, because now all this that we seeded here can germinate. But it is now very important that tomorrow and the day after we get this irrigation system going. It is all prepared, so it's just a matter of installing it and connecting it to the main line. And then we can manage it the same way as we manage our Miyawaki forest. So it will be just the same. And then we will also take care of this. So this used to be an animal path. And we want to remove the fence posts here and redo the electric fence all around this area, so that the area where sunhemp and friends will now grow, and what later will become a palovnia field, well, that's going to be a palovnia oak forest of some sort, and more species will follow. But one species that will definitely be there is this guy here, the Bermuda grass. And there's also the idea to seed additional things there, but this is then for next year, because now the sunhemp and friends will dominate. So the idea is to have here a forest with the herbaceous layer made of Bermuda grass and other things. So Bermuda grass in summer and the other things, the annuals during the colder period of the year. And then we have the oaks and the palovnias in the emergent layer. And we will see what else we can set in between for the canopy layer. So the idea is to design a proper forest, but with the intent of harvesting the palovnia trees at some point. But not as dense as Miyawaki, so that we can run chickens in between there. Maybe even chicken tractors, Salatin style in the beginning. That's something to be figured out, but I am playing around with some ideas how we can turn this into a productive system that is still agroforestry. So it is already a bit late and the sun isn't really shining, but this is a very important data point. We have pumped quite a bit out of this pond. So this means if we don't get a lot of rain now, we may have to start filling it up again. We do have a plan for that. There is the pump at the outflow of the water reservoir. We just need to lay a pipe that comes all the way to here, and then this gets filled up with at least 3,000 liters a day, as long as this lasts down there. And then maybe there is a day of pause, and then it gets filled up again. So basically what we take out we can replenish, but this is important. So here we have the pump that takes out the water to irrigate, and we need to fill it up again. Of course, this is also connected to the water table, which is filled back by the water reservoir that's nearby. It's 1 kilometer, and therefore this will not fall dry completely, but of course it depends how much we take out of it. So we have lowered it and we need to replenish. So that is very important. So what I can see, we probably have taken out 1 meter, or maybe even a little bit more, and we need to fill it back up. Every time I open the door of their chicken coop, these ladies come running, and they go right here to this place. And apparently they expect to find a lot of bugs, and that is their motivation to come running. So that's very interesting. And you might notice that the poultry netting is removed. The reason is it won't work anymore. The soil is now so dry that the electricity cannot flow back to the energizer. So there's no point in having it. The hens go outside of that poultry net, and the same way someone else can also come in. So now it's basically free ranging. They can do whatever they want. My hope is they will be smart and not venture out into the proper farmyard over there, so that there is no conflict with the dogs. Or that if they do, they are smart enough because they can fly and the dogs can't. The laying hens that are basically bred to produce a lot of eggs, 320 a year or so, they were pretty dumb. So they would crouch down and let the dog play with them, and then an accident happened and suddenly the tail is missing. I expect these Araucana hens to be a lot smarter. So far, they have been. So might be a much better choice in our case. And they produce blue eggs, which is also very nice. And I can say that they do taste different. But then I am comparing store-bought eggs from kind of factory farming to what I have here. Might just be the feed, and not that there's a genetic difference other than the color of the shell. And this up there is making noises. Also there in the distance there is a build-up. So it might be that we get a shower. But we're still irrigating there where we need a little bit more water and don't want to let it fall dry. So this here is not a proper electric fence. The horses are so docile that they understand what a string means. So this is not going to be electrified. Instead, this is just to tell them, please don't go there to the right, because now we are irrigating here. At least we have started. So this is only just 9 wobblers that are working beautifully with the pressure and flow that we have. And now there will be more sectors, 9 or 10 each, to cover the whole area, and also the area there on the other side. And while the guys are doing this, I am putting up the fence in a temporary fashion, and in a second go I will then install a proper plus-minus fence. And that way we can then have this area properly protected from the horses, and they can go everywhere around and eat whatever is there. It is their ration now for the next few months. And the plus-minus fence is a fence where the negative pole, which usually is the ground when you look at this from the energizer, is connected directly to the energizer. So one of the wires is then going to be the negative pole, and that way if the animal touches both, the shock will be provided instead of going through the ground. So in our case, where we have very dry soil, an electric fence that is just a positive wire up in the air and the ground is the negative pole will not work, because the ground is not conducive to electricity anymore. It only works in winter. So now in summer we need a plus-minus fence. They built them in Africa, for example, for elephants. And this of course needs to be properly installed, and that is what I want to do. I want to use the material that we have left. There is plenty, and as they are horses, I will use this white band here. There we have a lot that hasn't been used, and I will use this so that the horses from afar can see that there is a fence, and they won't touch it because they understand that. They are much smarter than cows, and that way this whole area can get excluded, and the sunhemp and friends, which already started to germinate, is now able to come up. So this is now closed here, and that should do. Like I said, horses do understand. Please do not go here. Unlike a cow that needs a robust reminder via an electric shock, horses understand it in this way, so it doesn't have to be electrified, but it will be. And this is just when the hunger outside is too big, and it is so easy to step in and eat the green things that will be growing here. That way we will avoid this. This animal lane here will be removed, so at some point we will then pull out the fence posts, and then this will become part of the area. I just discovered a leak, so this is the reason why we only can drive 9 instead of 13 wobblers. So I will now turn this off, and tomorrow Angel and his friend will take care of this, and then this should work in a proper way. One more thing that I should mention, somewhere around here, actually there where the leak is, there will be an installation of many different 25mm lines that will eventually be connected to a rainbird controller, and there will be Wi-Fi all the way here, and so in the future we can then control everything from here. And this seems to be a pattern that we will then repeat. The thing that makes me really happy is all that Bermuda grass that's coming up, and this has been growing here for a while. So all this disturbance in here has done something good for it, and you can find the Bermuda grass in all these areas. So I am very positive that we can build a system here that uses Bermuda grass as a ground cover, then Paulovnia trees as the canopy layer, and a few other things in between, and then we can work with small animals here in these areas and build a very nice system that is good for the environment and also productive, because eventually we do want to earn some money here, at least to make it self-sustainable. And small animals that we can possess fully without jumping through too many hoops of red tape, like chicken and maybe some rabbits, this is something that we can certainly do here in between the trees. So this is an interesting thing for the foreseeable future. Of course, large ruminants would be great, but they are much more difficult to manage. But of course, this is something that we can do at some point. But we already got a bloody nose economically, and so this is not going to happen unless we manage to process these animals ourselves, and that requires more jumping through hoops of red tape. So this is out of the question, and we also can't let the animals from someone else come here because of another administrative hurdle. The veterinarians would not allow this, or if they allow it, then the owner of the animals will keep them here for the whole year, and this goes against what we are trying to build. So therefore, this is not a viable path. So instead, my thought is we build something that is small and manageable, and most of all, can be automated, so that the human only has the task of installing and maintaining the system, but not has to work every day distributing feed, checking on the animals and all that. I want this to be in a much more natural way. The animals are smart. They know where their food is and they have their social structures and all these things. So why should I interfere without any actual benefit? The interference in a big way is what you see in factory farming. So a CAFU, a confined animal feeding operation, creates an environment where the animal cannot do anything except the little things that the human wants from them. But this is not the goal. The idea is to create something that is nice and beautiful and uses the animal in such a way as nature intended. So this is a new approach based on all the learnings. But there will be animals, because plants alone, this whole planet runs on shit. Plants alone will not do it. So we need the manure, and the animals provide that manure. That is their function, besides other benefits. And as I'm so happy about the Bermuda grass, look, here is another one that is coming up very nice, and you can see when there are other plants where it can lean onto, it will also be tall. So this is forage. After all, people do not appreciate it because they think this is only to make a lawn, but no, it is definitely forage. And the horses, they have been in here. Now I have this closed and they cannot go in there, but they have been in there. And now this can grow undisturbed. Our idea this morning has been, now that we have a mower attachment for the BCS, we can mow this and basically have another form of biomass, and then we can also compare, because eventually this is A14 from 11, which is there, 12, 13 and 14. All this should be fenced in and is a larger area with 2 hectares, I would think, where we can build this other system. And it is on the way to the farmyard. And if you think in the permaculture zones, well, you go out of that gate, and now the farmyard would be zone 1 or 2, I would think 1 in our case. So that is then 2, and here we do some maintenance, but this is not to work daily in here. So maybe once a week we do an inspection of something like that. So that would be very nice. So the idea is, and this is also to do with the irrigation, to turn this whole zone A step by step into something productive, where we have irrigation and supervision, monitoring and all these things. And we use the 3 horses for the moment here. See, there is more Bermuda grass. To add a little bit manure while we build this, because we have the horses, and eventually we can also do something with them as a means of transportation. So that is also an option. So I rather focus on these nice things for the moment, and then we build it up with a better plan. Actually, that now I am here, I can go over there and take you to the new pond, well, that sediment trap, which it actually is. So let me step in here and take you along. So there is more Bermuda grass that is growing. Might also be a little bit of vetiver in here, and you might notice it is a little bit wet. So I am getting rained upon a little bit. So there is a Bermuda, not a Bermuda grass, a vetiver. And of course the horses come here and feed on it. But a little bit is not a bad thing. More Bermuda grass that is growing here. So this is the seasonal creek. There is still a rest of the drip irrigation pipe. We need to take this out. Eventually there will be a system here. I think I mentioned that. Something to build in autumn. And then of course this also gets proper irrigation to establish itself, so that it gets a canopy. So I do see here and there a little bit of video. So it hasn't failed completely, but it's also not thriving. You can see who has been here. You see the manure, and they are there ahead. So this is their feeding ground here, and that is a positive thing because they take away, but also they add something back into the system, and that way the thing is balanced. So let's see. I believe this is dry by now. Well, almost. So it is dry, but there is still a little bit puddle left. So this is the sediment trap, and this is how it's going to stay over the summer. So let's go in here and take you for a walk along the side of this. So you see the horses have also been doing that, and they have been drinking from that water apparently. What I want to show you is what happened here. So the excavator operator put all the topsoil here, and you see this is all things that were in the seed bank. It includes the Bermuda grass, but also the other things like those flowers here. So this came up all by itself after the excavator finished. And you see here there's sand. So this is already a very nice system. Over there used to be a trap, but by now it's probably dry enough. So this was like a swamp where you can go in and disappear. He warned us not to step there, but I see plants coming up there, so this is probably safe. And no horse fell into this either. And after all, they are smart, they know these things. So this is the current state of our sediment trap. And in autumn, I hope that we can establish here another Miyawaki style forest all around it to build a proper riparian area. And keep one thing in mind. Eventually, I do want to use these new forests for something. And the first something that I can see is that we do something with poultry in there. Because poultry, like I said, are a lot easier to manage, and we can process everything that these animals provide. And also there is a local market, because people here do eat a lot of chicken, and they also like eggs. They might not want to pay what we would like to charge, but we can be flexible, because a positive cash flow is still better than a negative one, and it doesn't matter how big it is. So if we get to net zero, well, then that's okay. Point is, I should not be working to finance the whole operation. That would be not sustainable on my part. So therefore, let's do a little things and build this up, and then we do something good for the environment, and overall it's also a learning experience why volunteers may want to spend some time here to help and learn, and then apply this elsewhere, for example. So the volunteers that help to plant the Miyawaki forest, they are doing these things themselves in other places, and they wanted to learn about Miyawaki. So that worked out very well for everybody. So we can continue to do this, and therefore there's also the idea to have really good accommodation for everybody. So right now we have this cortijo, but this cortijo will turn into a technical thing to house battery and other technical stuff. And then in other places we can have some wooden cabins. And now we are a little bit doing tourism. And at one point it may house volunteers, at another point it may house a tourist who pays for the experience. So there are several ways. But first, please understand, I have to build my own house. So therefore we made this platform, and in autumn I hope to get started, so that eventually I will be living there and in a nice way and not in this temporary building. So now I need to open this and step in, feed the doggies, and then shift to another job.